What's up, everybody? This is a Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. Tonight, we have a special guest. Well, we got a couple special guests, actually. And if you're listening on Clubhouse, go ahead and check out that link at the top. And that is the video of the song that we're here to listen to. And it's called That's Why We Need to Bring Back Trump. So I have a friend, her name is Adrienne, and she's a publicist, and she reached out to me and asked if I could share and have the two guys that uh, the performer, and the guy the Sandy, the person who wrote the lyrics, and Roger, who did the performance on it. So when we get back here in just a moment, I'm going to do the intro, and I'm going to bring Sandy and Roger in, and we're going to find out what possessed them to make this song. All right, be back in just a moment.
Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
All right, guys, how you doing?
All right.
Great. Thanks for having us, Sean.
No, thank you for coming on and giving a little bit of your time to explain to us, what made you want to come up with this song. And I'm actually going to play it as well. We're going to share screen at some point, but I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself and give a little bit of backstory, and then we'll move into sharing that video.
Sandy?
Okay, well, I'm the lyricist. I wrote the song, and I was a computer programmer. I don't want to tell you everything about myself, but I reached out to Roger to sing it. I thought he had the perfect voice for it, and go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Sandy came over with those lyrics, because I had been defeated somewhat. I hadn't been an activist for quite a while. I just couldn't believe what we were saying on TV day in and day out. We literally are entering a totalitarian area, and it's really quite frightening. So I'll always be grateful for Sandy for bringing me back to life, to bringing me back in the fight. And now we're back in the fight. So thank you, Sandy. And it was something to look forward to doing all the time, that, to be doing something positive instead of just sitting and watching the news and suffering. We're doing something about it.
Okay, so basically, if I'm understanding correctly, you guys had been sort of seeing what has been unfolding the last 3 years. I would say that, everybody for the first couple of weeks was sort of like, all right, we'll maybe this is something serious, and we'll check it out. As that unraveled, it seemed like it was something other than what it should have been, and it just continued on down this path of totalitarian-ish type of I don't know what you would even call it, like shepherding. I mean, whatever our handlers are trying to do. And so you decided that if you put your talents together and said, hey, this is our contribution to how we feel we can make a difference in this situation.
Well, the way I got the inspiration, I was listening on the radio. There was a song that where the main line rhymed pretty much with "That's why we need to bring back Trump." And when you hear the actual song, you'll know what it is. And when I heard that, I mean, it's just like it stuck in my head. And I thought, boy, this would be great, to let people know or remind them of how happy we were 2 years ago before Biden, and how great the country was, and then show all of the horrible things that have happened since then so fast. Starting with, from the very beginning, like we have no border, not even a gate. That's how it starts. And it just goes on from there. And, so then I called Roger. I thought, because I knew that Roger had done parodies before, because we were friends. We met playing softball. And I asked him if he would just, all I thought at that point was, let's do a song. I wasn't even thinking about a video. And,
Right.
and he wanted to do it, and he got all excited about it too. And then he knew a studio to go to record it, and he had friends in that business, and so we did it, and then we kept improving it, and then he suggested that we turn it into a video, right? And then I hired a videographer, and then there was some sickness in the family, and he started on it, and we had to go to another one, and we went to 2 or 3 of them, and it wasn't working out. So I learned how to do that myself, and then I did all the video too, and it just turned out great.
Wow. Yeah. I've done the same thing. And sometimes it's like, I don't trust myself that I'm like, cause I'm not a professional. Didn't go to school for it. I didn't do any of these things. Right. And so I start messing with something and I don't trust myself, and I end up doing it myself because nobody can understand what's in my head.
Right. In
Like
fact, I'm sorry, the last videographer that we had is a real liberal, and after a while, I kept bringing it back to him to make improvements and stuff. And at one point, he said, "I can't stand this," And so
you
he said,
broke
"I
him.
think
What happened was that Sandy
Go ahead,
Sandy took charge of the video and finished the video for us. That was really one of the better things.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I wonder if he was from Northern California.
No, actually from New York originally. Same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Well, do you guys want to take a look at watch the video and see what we got here?
Great.
All right. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Bam. And let's go full screen.
Close that door. Noise.
We have no border, not even a gate. We all get censored by the deep state. We just can't stomach another mandate. That's why we need to bring back Trump. Crime is so bad now, we just wanna hurl. An athlete can say he'll compete as a girl. Kamala's cackle makes your hair curl. And that's why we need to bring back Trump. We all want free elections that are fair, but they don't care. They're woke. What a joke. Hey, California, you're now a real dump. That's why we need to bring back Trump. Stopping the pipeline is not a good bet. Defunding cops was the dumbest thing yet. Afghanistan, well, how dumb can you get? That's why we need to bring back Trump. We don't want socialism here anymore. It only makes sure that everyone's poor. Critical race theory we all deplore. That's why we need to bring back Trump. We want our oil independence back again. For sure there would have been real peace In the East, we tried to warn ya. Joe Biden's a chump. That's why we need to. That's why we have to. That's why we've got to bring back Trump.
All right.
Sean, you know what Sandy did was he really encapsulated a lot of the things that have happened. And you see, the problem is people forget. And when you get one bomb after the next, before you know it, like they've done a dozen things, and it's like you don't even know which one to talk about. So he encapsulated a lot of what was happening, and
Oops, hold on.
And people need to be reminded. And also, the independents, maybe they don't know much of anything, because if they're watching mainstream news, they're not seeing anything. I don't know if you've seen any lately, but it's really another world.
No, you're absolutely right. If you, and this was really funny when I heard this, and it isn't new, but if you watch the news, if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed, and if you do watch the news, you're misinformed. And so this wasn't as apparent to me as 2020 hit, and then it was real apparent. It was almost like that they just didn't even care. Like
Yeah,
they
it's
had
like,
it didn't matter. It's like, yeah, we're doing this, and so what are you going to do?
right, Sandy. It's like we know what they're doing. They know we know, and they know that we know that, and they still don't care. Now it's just out in
No,
broad daylight.
I think it's worse than that. I think they do care. And I think that they seem to think and really believe that the best thing they can do is undo everything that Trump did. And they got to Biden. It all started with Obama, really. And Biden is just his puppet. And we know Biden doesn't know what he's doing. And every single thing that Trump did, they try to undo.
And that's the whole policy. The whole policy is simply to undo everything Trump did, except everything Trump did worked.
Right.
Now, all right, I'm gonna give a little bit of pushback here. All right. And so let me take that out because I think it's making, hold on. All right. So full disclosure here. All right. In 2020, I did vote for Trump. I voted for him because I thought that he was the better choice of the two. I feel like they're both parties is just one. There's no right, there's no left. It's all just corporatists and globalists and nationalists and all of that, right? And I felt like, he did a lot of good stuff, especially for people that were incarcerated, and that's the group that I'm from. Formerly incarcerated individuals. Now, there's some things that he did that did make me upset. Now, when he changed the tax code, that screwed everybody in California, in New York, which was the point. He wanted to punish the left for what they did, but he also took away stuff from unions and like from mine. And so like he took away all of our deductions. So it was like $15,000 in deductions that we couldn't no longer take anymore. And I felt like that was an attack on labor. And so I you know I had to weigh it out, and then Biden also was, the 94 crime bill, he's just no friend of anybody's. He's been there for 40 years, didn't do shit. What makes you think he's going to do anything now? Part of the whole, Hillary, Obama, whatever it is, right? So that's why I voted for Trump. Plus, if they're both going to lie, I would much rather have somebody that's going to make me laugh lie to me. You know what I mean? And he's really funny. Now, with that being said, I am not certain that he's the best thing for the country going forward. I don't think Biden is either. I just I don't know, man. I the whole vaccine thing that he put in on him, and I am the one who's, responsible for that. Well, you're responsible for a lot of people being injured. You're responsible for a whole bunch of adverse events and deaths and stuff too as well. So I don't know, man. I'm not convinced that he's the best thing. Now, I don't know. Can you convince me?
Were you talking about COVID when you said Trump was responsible for deaths, for all these deaths?
No, because of the shot. The warp speed, him bringing in, taking all the responsibility for the shot.
Okay.
Well, he did what everybody wanted. He found the vaccine. As far as what the vaccine now is, I don't know. He's not a chemist, but he certainly got things moving. Sandy, let me give you the ball, but let me just touch base on this. As far as like the income tax in California, we understand that. But the thing is, Sean, just appreciate the fact that in Florida, we don't have any income tax. So in effect, if you take that deduction, the people in Florida are paying for the social programs in California. I know it's dicey because you don't want people to get hurt, but there is, it's not like there's no reason for it. And the unions, they're pretty partisan, Sean. The unions have become pretty partisan. Yes, Andrew.
Not so much. At least not the construction ones.
Right.
The labor unions and building trades, the ones that are connected with
Like
the AFL-CIO. They tell you how they want you to vote. You don't have to, but I mean they're pretty set.
If I could jump in, two things. First of all, nobody's perfect, right? And if we bring Trump back in, we know what we'll get. Anybody else, you don't know, except Biden. So just on that alone, if you don't want to take any chances, Trump was like 90% great. Now about the shot, I mean, he was going by his advisors and he did a great job. He was told that this was a terrible disease and all that. And so he got that vaccine out as soon as he possibly could. That's the best thing he could do. To brag about it, I think that's just political because we all know now that it was all about the pharmaceutical companies and Fauci. It was all about money and power, mainly power. Okay. I just think he did the best he could. And for him to turn around now and say, oh, that was a big mistake would hurt him politically. And I think that he knows that we know that he's just doing the best he can under the circumstances. And as far as the unions go, if you compare that to the border and Afghanistan and everything else, I mean, it's like nothing. It's no big deal. By the way, I did not vote.
No, it's a big deal for me because that's as somebody who like notice things when they hit you in the wallet.
But
right?
Do you compare that to fentanyl? It's killing people and all that. And
it's probably payback for the West Indies Trading Company and what Great Britain did to China way back in the day. I mean, that's where all the fentanyl's coming from. It's coming from China and then it's piping up through Mexico.
Right.
And Trump knew China was a problem from the very beginning. He was talking about China before he even came down the escalator. Biden seems to do everything that helps China and everything that hurts the United States. He's owned by them.
I don't think that Biden should be anywhere near anything. Okay. I don't think that any of these administrations, either of them, should be anywhere. I think that, in my personal opinion, if I could see this, I would definitely vote for it. Ron DeSantis and Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh yeah,
and Ron DeSantis is leading by example right now in his own state of what he's not going to tolerate.
I could certainly live with that. I would hate to lose Ron DeSantis as governor of Florida, but no, he's great. And I agree with you about Tulsi Gabbard. In 2016, I voted for the Libertarian candidate, Gary Johnson. Okay. I was the first elected chairman of the Libertarian Party of Broward County, and I served as treasurer for many decades, for like 3 decades. And I was also Libertarian treasurer of the state of Florida. So I've been mainly active as a libertarian, but at this point, awesome. Yes, I mean, it's so important to get rid of the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And if you vote libertarian now, I hate to say it, but it's an old phrase, you're throwing your vote away. We just can't afford it now. We've got to vote Republican.
Look,
You know,
it's not.
in 2020. Well, go ahead, Roger.
I was going to say it's not like we can't, like Sandy said, it's not like we can't live with DeSantis, but you have to look at the landscape of what the next president's going to have to do. We haven't even discussed the fact that this president was literally framed by Hillary Clinton. That's not my opinion. That's not my opinion. That's in black and white. He was framed by Hillary Clinton.
Are you talking
And
about the Steele
nobody even
dossier
talks
and the Russiagate?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. That is true. That is true. It's not
her 33,000 emails. Okay, so we haven't even just. So the point is, we're going up against. Look, I said a long time ago that Obama, when he was there, he's not going to walk away. I said these people are revolutionaries. Obama's a revolutionary, and they weren't just going to walk away, and they didn't walk away, and that's why they're still stuck in the bottom of our shoes here.
Okay,
so
but let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So he, from the beginning of his term, he was under attack. I mean, if you had started a job anywhere and you had as many people doing what the Democrats were doing to him as you were as an employee and your superiors doing to you, you would never be able to get that job done and you probably quit. Why? I just don't. I see if he comes back, we're just going to have 4 more years of them trying to continue to make problems for another 4 years. So why not go for something different, something new, something that we can all kind of get behind? I mean, even you could live with that.
Well, look,
irregardless of what he's done and what he's doing, I like him as a person. You know what I mean? He doesn't bother me. It's like people, you know, it's, oh my God, he's just, you know, just the sound of him, you know what I mean? And it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's like, get over yourselves. Jesus Christ. I mean, if you allow somebody to have that much fucking power over you, then you're the problem. Okay. Because people don't have power over you unless you give it to them.
But Sean, they're going to do the same thing to DeSantis. They're going to circle him like circling the wagon. They're going to all be after him. Now, Trump's already experienced with that. I don't know anybody that could really survive the persecution he was under. Could you imagine from every single direction, including the rhinos, the front, from every single possible direction?
But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing because then they'll see it. Then it'll be out in the open. It's like, okay, it's not just Trump. It's just fucking anybody. You know what I mean? And
what I'd like to say is that the very fact that Trump put up with that crap for 4 years, more than 4 years, and survived everything. Yeah, they impeach him, but it doesn't stick. And they accuse him of all these things and nothing sticks. He's able to handle it. And again, we know what kind of a president he would be. We know because he's been president for 4 years. We lived through it. You know, anyone else, we don't know 100%. I really like DeSantis. I really do.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying this. We can't take any chances right now. You know,
anything but blue.
And also, DeSantis said he's not going to run if Trump's winning. And I think that DeSantis is a man of his word. That's exactly what he's going to do. He's not going to run if Trump runs. I could see Trump running, and after just maybe a few years, turning the reins over to him, or certainly. But like I say, he's the one that got us to the dance. Trump's the one that got us here. If it wasn't for Trump, this country would be through now because Hillary would have won, and you can only imagine what would have happened because we found out what was going on. We found out that the president of the United States was spied upon and was plotted against to try to get him. This was a coup in broad daylight, and it's still occurring.
But why does nothing ever happen? That's what I want. I mean, yes, all of these things are happened. They have happened. It's you know what I mean? But why didn't he lock her up? Why didn't he do what he said he was going to do? Why do none of these folks ever see the light of a jail cell or the inside of a jail cell? There's not much light there.
Because the DOJ and the FBI are compromised.
And
not compromised. They've been taken over by the Democrats. They have no.
Are we just in a situation where like the horse shit that we're all having to wade through has gotten so deep that you know what I mean? Like the corruption is just up to our eyeballs now.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we fix it? I mean,
got to get rid of the Democrats. They're all brainwashed. somehow or other, they have removed the common sense out of the party. They have no common sense. It's amazing. They've lost their common sense.
But to answer
And
your
so they get away
question,
with everything. They can say anything as ridiculous as you can imagine and get away with it.
yeah.
Because the press, look at George Soros, right?
Mhm.
And these people, they own, and China, they own the press. They own the media. No matter what they say, they'll agree with them. And that's the problem. Well, when Barack Obama said that Fox News is not real news, that started it all way back then. If you watch Fox News, they think you're an idiot. So what, they've attacked reason at every angle from every direction. And so you just, no matter what you say anymore, if you don't agree with them, with the Democrats, they just think you're a conspiracy theorist or an idiot or something. And that's how they did it. They came from all different directions, including money. And I remember when you could not donate more than a certain amount of money to a political campaign. How does Zuckerberg donate $700 million or whatever it is? How do you do that? They bought the election, and I'm afraid it's going to happen again.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that too.
Well, I mean, it obviously is, and a lot of I do see what you're saying in that aspect of it. I mean, we have super PACs that we donate to as a union that I don't agree with. I wouldn't do that. I don't really like my money going to the governor of Steve Sisolak up in Reno. I mean, that guy's pretty corrupt too. If you look at the Harvest Park shooting down in Las Vegas, I mean, there was some interesting stuff there. But let's just say I can't. My money goes where they just say it goes, and so there's not much you can do there.
Sean, you asked the question about, you said we're so far in the quicksand, up to our heads or over our heads. Can we get out of it? Well, that's the answer to your question as far as why should we have Trump as opposed to DeSantis. We need a real survivor to help us survive. We need not that DeSantis is not. DeSantis is going to be a great president one day, maybe after Trump. I don't know, but that's the reason. We need a real fighter because it's all out in the open now. You got our institutions, our agencies are politicized. It's all done out in broad daylight, and they're doing it anyway. So I think we need a real fighter that's going to go in there. And this time, I think he will eliminate the swamp. He'll get rid of all the old holdovers and.
That's what he should have done That's what he should have done when he got there. Is eliminate all of the people, his advisors, because there were holdovers. You know what I mean? That were loyal to
the.
Well, you've heard of the Schedule F thing. This is a new thing. He's talking about raiding all the swamp people and getting rid of them all if they're in the Schedule F. And the Democrats in Congress are already trying to pass a bill against it, making it illegal to do that or something. You heard about that?
Well, no, I haven't heard about that, but I heard about that they're trying to exempt themselves from the new auditing task force that the 80,000 agents that they're hiring. They're trying to make it so they can't be audited.
They're trying to rig the system. But Trump,
that's what they've been doing, and that's that's part of the when I think about who to get pissed off at. And, I think about my grandparents, I think about my parents, and, times were good and they just fell asleep. You know what I mean? That generation, both of those generations just fell asleep and, took for granted what was happening and just, oh, well, the government cares about us. You know what I mean? We'd been tricked into this like idea that we're free. Right? That freedom, home of the free. But we're not really. If you think about it, we're not free.
Sean, the censorship is unbelievable. They say, the election wasn't fixed. Election denier? Okay, how about a day before the election? The whole thing was a fix, just what preceded it for all those years. The day before the election, media has a blackout on the Hunter Biden story, a story that was released by the New York Post. And they all, in concert, all the media, including the social media, mainstream media, they all went completely black on it.
Yeah.
And that happened in America is just beyond belief.
The real big lie is that the big lie was a big lie.
Yeah.
It was true.
Yeah.
They rigged it every way they could.
No, I mean, there's this. I don't understand. It just seems so obvious to me. Like when I see all of these things, like I'm looking at it from like way back here, and I can I can see why that's okay. That makes sense why you would do that. Oh, okay, you're wanting me to look that way instead of that way. That the real truth is over there.
Yeah, well, you have common sense.
You know what I mean? And it's but what do you how do you let me slow down here. So what do you think about 2000 Mules?
Say again. What do we think of what?
What do you think about 2000 Mules?
Oh, 2000 Mules.
Did you see it, Roger? I watched
The
it.
movie 2000 Mules. Yeah.
Yes.
There are things in there that happened that can't be explained. Why did the election room shut down? Why did they say that there was a water leak when there never was? So there are things that should be looked at. But like I said, Sean, if you look back and if you consider what happened to Trump before he came in office, he was spied on when he campaigned. He was spied on when he was president. They had the bogus impeachment 1 and 2 and the Mueller report, and now this and now the January 6th. And so, what I'd like to make a point is this: that if the election was on the up and up, that's the only thing of that whole thing that was. If you tied together all those dots, everything that happened. Oh, now we're supposed to be. Oh, the election is it's the only one. But we're supposed to buy that was fine. No fraud, not even a smidgen. Remember the smidgen from Obama at halftime of the Super Bowl? Not even a smidgen. So we're tired of the BS. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, and it's time to take off the gloves, frankly.
Okay, if I can say about 2000 Mules, that was mainly about stuffing the ballot box in the middle of the night with those drop boxes. Mm-hmm. Trump was suspicious about that from the very beginning. And he was saying there, with the COVID at that time, it was called coronavirus. They were using that. He was afraid they were going to use that as an excuse to cheat. And that movie, it's not 100% proof, but I sure believe it. They did exactly what he was afraid of, suspicious of, and it's very important that we don't allow that. We don't allow those drop boxes in the next election, whether it happened or not. It certainly could happen. And now they have that idea to do that. You know what I mean? After that movie came out, if they didn't do it then, they can sure do it now.
Yeah, I just there was just too much. There was too much in there that made sense. From like being if law enforcement can use that to track people and to track your movements and to figure out where you're at, then there's no reason why couldn't be plausible for these folks to have done the same thing and sort of reverse engineered, how the whole thing, came about. But I just think that's one leg of it. I think that there's other avenues of it as well that we're not aware of. Even from, the machines, the voting machines. What are those called? What's the manufacturer? Who is it?
I can't pull it up. I know what you're talking about.
And just the whole thing from Venezuela, they were used down there. I mean, they're just fishy. You know what I mean? There's obviously issues with them, and there's reasons why these countries, especially ones that are in turmoil, are using them.
They're illegal in certain states to use that company's.
What the hell is the name of it? They're out of Canada. What is the name of it?
And Sean, the fact that you were censored and called an election denier, and you're flat censored if you talk about it or write about it, what does that tell you about the election?
Well, no, I get it. I mean, it's I just think there's just too many questions. I mean, anytime even I'm not saying one way or the other, but what I am saying is that when there's so much controversy and question about something that nobody wants to touch, why do you not want to touch? Why did so in Georgia, I was following Garland Favorito. Do you guys know who that name is? He was trying to get something overturned in Georgia, and it was just there's so many issues, with them trying to turn over information, this or that, and they just kept giving them the runaround. And it's just, I don't understand. I mean, if there's nothing to hide, then why not disclose? Who cares?
We're all in agreement.
And then how come, like, what's it going to take to just go back to the old way? Why can't we just go back to you know what I mean? ID, vote.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you don't show up, oh well, you don't show up. Who cares?
Well, there's
You know
only
what I
one
mean?
reason the Democrats don't want that, and it's very obvious. They want to cheat. And it's very difficult for a lot of people to believe and understand, especially people that don't follow this stuff. But just like you said, why not have a voter ID? Why not have an election day so we don't wait a month to find out who wins? I mean,
What's it
Dominion.
we all knew the
Dominion,
mail ballot
that's
would be
it.
a farce. Yes, Andy.
All right.
Dominion
Thank
voting.
you. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. I mean, there's tons that we can get into here, but I'm trying to keep this to a shorter episode so actually it gets consumed, because the longer ones that people just don't have the attention span for. So, if you haven't heard it and you go back and rewind, or you'll be able to find it in the description of this, a direct link to the video. That's, oh shit, where did it go? Oh, that's right. It went away. God damn it. But I wrote it down. That's why we need to bring Trump back.
No.
Bring back Trump.
That's why we need to bring back Trump. All right.
Can I
That's the
say
name
something,
of the song.
Sean, if we took each one of Sandy's lines, okay, no border, giving up oil independence, the mandates, crime, if we took each one of his lines, Sandy and I could talk to you for hours on each one of those. We didn't get into any of the details, like about, the Second Amendment, but they want to let everybody out of jail. They're just the contradictions of things that are insane. The open border, but you can't protect you. It's just, we could go on and on for long, right, Sandy? I mean,
Yes.
and we have,
If you're
that's
not-
what we do.
But if you're not watching mainstream media and you're plugged into, whatever independent journalists or, programming on YouTube, which isn't fake news, it's actually a bunch of real stuff that's here. If you're watching that, yes, then you know what's happening, and like how it feels like a controlled demolition of our life. You know what I mean? Of our way of life, and the things that we have come to like know. I feel sorry for my daughter who's 5, who's not. I feel like she's not going to get to experience the life that I did.
Well, this is why people need to watch the video, share it, subscribe, get as many people to see it as possible, because it's all there.
And
Everything
vote.
I can think of is in that one song.
Yeah, Sandy packed a lot in there. And so Trump, Sandy and I were both felt exactly the same way. We feel so bad for Trump, the way he's been like persecuted, and that there's no other word for it. We're hoping that the video is uplifting to him, and we hope the video is uplifting to his voters, because we've been smacked in the face and called every name in the book imaginable.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, up until recently, I mean, I didn't really, publicly say who I voted for, that I voted for Trump, just because I just didn't want to deal with the blowback or have to defend it. Like, why should I have to defend my decision? You know what I mean? That's how I felt. I feel differently now, but then I felt that way.
Can I ask Sandy a question? Let me ask Sandy, do you think our video will be helpful as far as the independence? We don't expect to get anybody over from the left with that video. We want to make everybody feel good with the video, but hopefully we'll get independence. What do you think, Sandy?
Yeah, I think so. People are going to watch it and go, oh, yeah, that happened. And, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And, it's going to remind them.
Because the media is not going to remind them.
No, of course not.
No.
And
They'll never cover anything. I mean, it's amazing that we have the raid on Trump at Mar-a-Lago, but yet we still don't know who the fuck Epstein was in his book, and who they know who it was, and they haven't gone after anybody there. So I just, it's really frustrating when, stuff like that transpires, and you just can see right through it. Um, uh, one
Only if you
thing,
have common sense.
Sandy,
Yeah.
you said you were a libertarian at one point. So on 2020, it was the first time that I voted actually in my life. And I was doing my research, and I had somebody on to explain like progressivism to me, to see if I kind of fit into there. And then I had a libertarian come on, Spike Cohen, who was the vice presidential candidate. I had him on to kind of, pick his brain about what libertarian, what they stand for. And then ultimately I ended up voting for Trump because I didn't want to waste my vote. Uh, and people just say, well, if how are you ever going to get a third party if everybody never wants to waste their vote? Well, I felt like it was super important. And, and I think this next one is going to be very important. So
Critical.
anyways,
Right. The League of Women Voters used to host the debates, and then they changed it to the Presidential Election Commission, and that was supposed to be nonpartisan, but it was made up of 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. And they kept changing the rules to be in the debates, making it harder and harder. And, it started out as like all you needed was like 5% of the to be in the polls to win, and 5% in the polls, then you could be in the debates. And the libertarians came really close to that. So then they changed it to 10% and now 15%. They are making it impossible for the libertarians to be in the presidential debates. And how can you possibly win as a third party if you can't even be in the debates?
Also too, but they did that real time to Tulsi Gabbard. Remember that? Like it came down to where she was like, she should have been there. She qualified, and they moved the goalpost again.
Exactly.
And then they made it seem, because they didn't even mention her, and she was still in the race. And they made it seem like she was no longer there. So they like literally blacked her out.
Right. Ross Perot came close because he was in the debates.
Right.
But so
I
they took,
remember Ross Perot. I
yeah,
remember.
I think that is when they
Barely.
pulled it away from the League of Women Voters and started this new commission to make sure no third parties would ever be in the debates again.
You know what Sandy and I experience over and over and over again, and we tell each other all the time, and it's really kind of maddening that the left or the whatever you want to call it, and they say, oh, well, we get all our information from Fox and Newsmax and One American News, and those don't count. And that's how they write off everything that's happening, because those stations are not really telling the news at all. It's gotten more and more and more distant from the real news. It's gotten more fake. Sandy, I don't know if you've seen them lately, but that's their whole reasoning. No, Trump's this and that, and what's on Fox is a lie.
Yeah, they laugh at you. They say, "Oh, where'd you get that? Fox News or OAN or whatever?" And that's it. That's their whole argument. Oh, that's not news. Forget it.
Well, it's all infotainment. Really is what it boils down to. You're getting information that's entertaining, and it's not really like it's narrative spinning is really what it is. And each side has their own way that they do it. And
But
so I just don't,
they
I
say the
feel,
same things word for word on the mainstream news. So they get their, and we know that the government is behind a lot of the censorship. They've admitted it.
I've been censored too on YouTube.
Yeah.
I've been censored, and it was medical misinformation, and it was a researcher who was citing peer-reviewed studies out of Canada. It was like, what do you mean? Misinformation. It's a study.
Yeah, that's what they do.
So, all right. So we got a little bit over what I wanted to, but like I said, it's easy to get sucked back into these conversations about this stuff because a lot of it is really fun to talk about. Just because it's fun to talk with people that can see what you're seeing and won't. It's fun to have a conversation, like even though we don't really agree on Trump per se, but we still, you know what I mean, are of the same sort of like freedom's good. Yes. The Constitution's good. Yes. You know what I mean? Most of Americans are down the middle, with a little bit of, I like a little bit of this over here, like, the Second Amendment. I think that's a good thing. So, that brings me a little bit more to the right. And then, maybe there's something over on their side that, might be good, just like anything else. You got to take what's good from what's working and mix it in. I have never understood why, with the war on drugs and like the waste that was, why didn't anybody ever think about going to the different countries that are doing things differently and look at what's working and take a piece from that and 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 put that together and see if that works?
Well,
You
we
know
had
what
it
I
working 2 years ago.
but I'm just saying, just in general, I mean, you can
Yeah.
do that with anything. Why does it have, it just doesn't seem like anybody's interested in the solution.
Well, we certainly are. And when it comes to Trump, for us, for Sandy and I, it's policy, policy, policy. Period. Look, I worked with some stars that had interesting personality. I worked with Buddy Rich. Okay, he was not an easy guy to work with. And I've seen these personalities before. So what? That doesn't bother me because that's the way they are. He's a billionaire. He was a TV star. Come on, give me a break. They're all like that as far as the entertainers, the entertainment, but they're all like that.
Well, what comes to my mind is like, if you're going to hire a lawyer, would you want someone who's fair and even-minded and polite, or do you want a real son of a bitch if he's representing you? And Donald Trump is all about the people, America first. I don't want a mealy-mouthed guy. I don't want someone like Biden. I want someone who's going to really fight for us and freedom, and that's Donald Trump.
And we love DeSantis, but they could chew him up. They might.
Yeah,
And he's not used to being surrounded. Trump is. He's been there, done that. He knows how to take the swamp down this time. This time, he'll get rid of all of them. I didn't know why he didn't fire all those U.S. attorneys from the Department of Justice. That's what Clinton did. They fired every single one of them. J. Christian Adams told me on the show, they fired every. I said they fired every single one. He says every single one of them. They had a website called Every Single One of Them because every single one of them was a liberal. So I don't know why Trump. I think Sandy, was Trump trying to show that he was magnanimous, perhaps?
Perhaps.
So I'm not sold still. We still got a ways to go. More will be revealed. I know that there always is, and we'll see. If DeSantis doesn't run and I don't like what the options are, and I see that that's the logical choice, then of course that's what I'm going to do. But I that's going to be my absolute last. You know what I mean? If nothing else. Because I think they're gonna, if that happens, they're just gonna make more problems for another 4 years.
Well, they can do what they want, but our sovereignty is at stake. Our sovereignty is at stake. If we don't win this, we can let the UN and the European Union run our business.
And we're all going to have to learn Chinese.
He's not even exaggerating.
Feng Shui. Kung Pao. I love Kung Pao. Kung Pao chicken. That's the only Chinese I want to learn.
Why didn't they change the name of Peking duck to Beijing duck?
Did they?
Well, they changed Peking's name to Beijing. That's
right.
The question.
Why didn't they change the duck?
It's the greasiest thing. I had it in Beijing, Sandy, and it was nauseating. I couldn't eat any of it. It came out, and it was just all grease and fat, like just swimming around. It was terrible. It was near the Great Wall. Anyway, look, but back to the serious business at hand is we did this because the sovereignty of this country really is at stake, the very sovereignty of this country. There are those that want to see us chopped down so that we could join all the others in the one world government. We haven't really talked about that. Some think it's too late for that, right, Sandy? But Sandy and I would like to think that with Trump, and hopefully Republicans can slow this type of movement down so that America can keep its sovereignty. Sandy, weigh in on that.
Yeah, it's like the only hope left. Maybe it's like we're desperate at this point. Otherwise, I'd keep voting Libertarian. This time you've got to go Republican, and watch the video.
Well, there you have it. All
I mean, you
right.
don't have to worry about the tweets, right?
Well, yeah. Check out the video, obviously, and if if it resonates with you, share it.
Right.
Um, I know that one thing doesn't matter what side you're on. There's definitely a difference in what's going on in society today versus 2019. It's not the same. It's very different, and I don't know if it'll ever come back, but um, I sure would like it to. I sure would like it to because I like those times, and I would love to have my daughter, both of them, even the older one, to be able to experience the kind of life that I did growing up and not have to worry about things like, is China and Russia going to, collude to invade us at some point? All these things, that it feels like our own government is involved in co-opting with this enemy, so to say,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. It just seems like in every direction that I look, that more and more like it's a controlled demolition.
Yeah.
And like, why would you do that if you weren't trying to like purposely tank tank our economy, tank our way of life, tank the whole thing? Why?
And it is by design. It is
Yep.
by design. And as sick as that is, Cloward and Piven was to collapse us from within, from the economy. But they want to bring us down so we're no longer the great United States of America. They just want us to be another kid on the block and play nice now. We're a world group. We're one world government. And I think that's where they're coming from because but everything they do is by design because either that or they truly are insane. One of the two.
No, they create the problem so they can bring you the solution, and then have the mainstream media feed that funnel into the minds of the 60% that are still plugged into that legacy media and that whole programming, right? That's what it is. I mean, it's programming. That's why they call it programming, because they're programming you through repetition, through, that's why if you're watching something like a major thing happen, I mean, it's just boom, 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 boom. You're being flashed with it
Yeah.
constantly. So it's just boom, it's ingrained into you. Every
And
time I'll turn on the TV and I'll turn on the news station when something like that's going on, and I'll have to turn it off because I'll feel like I'm like, oh my God, just stop.
Right.
You know what I
and
mean?
they
It's like you just quit it.
and they're so deep into it at this point that they can freely admit it. I mean, they know that we know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and it doesn't make any difference
Wasn't
because
there an article in the New Yorker where they basically said that they controlled the narrative of COVID because of, it helped to get Trump out of office? There was some major publication that where they admitted that they did some shit.
Sean, are you aware that with this administration, if you had a prescription from your doctor and you had COVID, you got a prescription from your doctor and went into a Walgreens or a CVS, the pharmacies and pharmacists would not fill your prescription if the government did not approve of which drug it was. Now, I remember when everybody made such a big deal, one doctor, you won't lose your doctor or your policy, which of course was a lie, but that's nothing compared to this. So this is unbelievable. They wanted everybody to get the vaccine, but if you have COVID, we don't want you to get cured.
well, if you have a prescription for ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, they would not fill it, and I can testify to that firsthand. I went to Walgreens and nope, will not do it because of the CDC guidelines, and the
And,
doctor prescribed those drugs.
and history will show the lies that was said about ivermectin. Oh, it's for horses and all this nonsense.
No, it
It
was it was an essential medicine on the WHO's list. You know what I mean? It's still there, I think, as an essential medicine.
they
Maybe,
had
I
a
don't know.
very
Maybe they took it off, but at one point it was. It had a Nobel Prize for curing what is it, the river blindness. That's what it was originally intended for, right?
And malaria, the other
Yeah,
one was
malaria
malaria.
too.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Look, I don't, and people might get upset with me for saying this, but in my opinion, COVID didn't kill nearly as many people as the hospital protocols did.
Yes.
They were sending people home when you were sick, right? So they were sending you home and telling you not to come back until you couldn't breathe, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they didn't give you any of the early treatment stuff, and so it's just it lines up with, okay, so when you do get sick, right, and you do cannot breathe anymore, they bring you back in immediately. They put you on that ventilator because you can't breathe, right?
Oh,
Boom,
my God.
there's a pay code, right? There's a bonus right there for getting you on there. There's a
Mhm.
bonus for
Right.
you even being in there with COVID. And then they give you the remdesivir after that, which is a protocol, which is horrible for your kidneys, I believe it is, or your liver, one of the two. It's very toxic, almost like AZT was back in the AIDS epidemic. Oh, but wait a minute. Oh, here's that one guy, Fauci, who just did his whatchamacallit today, right? He just resigned, and he's going to be leaving in December. But he headed all of this stuff during back in the 80s with the AIDS, and you can read a very good book called The Real Anthony Fauci by what's his name, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Great information, tons of stuff about that guy and what he's been a part of and the things that he's done. Um, we are in times right now that are very dire, where it seems that the medical community has become like this. I don't even know, like they're controlling everything. And I'm in commercial construction, and so we see who's who's building, right, especially in the Bay Area. I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm in the corridor in 101, where you have all the biomedical labs, Genentech. You've got the one who made remdesivir, who's that, Gilead. All of them are on that corridor, and the only people right now, or corporations, or building new construction that's happening right now in the Bay Area, is either medical, social media, or government. All of the ones that Pfizer or the other ones have been able, or have given money to for advertising, for you know what I mean?
Yeah, the
Sean,
government
remember?
and
Go
the
ahead,
government
sir.
and the pharmaceutical companies are in
Sorry, I
bed
went on a
together.
rant.
And you're right; they're running everything, and people are now used to that. So if Fauci says something like, you have to wear 3 masks, everybody runs out and does it. And if you don't, they won't let you in the restaurant or whatever. Uh, we've lost all that power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember
Well,
when Trump?
hopefully we're going to get it all back. And, it's, we could see it now. I mean, even from the play from the WHO, that the World Health Organization, or the World Health Assembly, that they tried to take the sovereignty away with all these countries and get
Yeah.
them to vote to do all that. I had an episode from a guy on Substack. He came on and talking about that. And so that was put off for a little bit. But I mean, dude, it's almost like you ever seen Jurassic Park, and they're explaining the velociraptors and how they test the fences and everything else. That's all they're doing. They just keep throwing darts. They just keep throwing darts, and hopefully we'll miss something and one of them gets through.
Sean, I hate to stay on the COVID thing, but remember way back when Trump said, "Be careful that the cure is not worse than the disease," and he was talking about the lockdowns and everything else that has happened to this country since then, and he was right about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Biden accused Trump of genocide, which I didn't really appreciate, saying that Trump killed these 200,000 people. And yet, now that more people have died under Biden, you don't hear Trump accusing Biden of genocide, do you? They're just the rhetoric, the hyperbole that comes from the left side is just mind blowing.
Well, I mean, it's not even they're just lies now. It's not even it's just not it's not it's just lies. They're just flat out lies. And they have the media in their back pocket to spin them for them. To make the 60% feel like they're in the right with whatever they say, and then when they come at you, you're just like, I, I had somebody close to me. It's a babysitter, right, for my daughter. They're liberals, and I didn't realize that they were that to the left. Until we got into a conversation, and it was about the World Health Assembly and what was going on, and he couldn't believe that that was happening and that I was making it up. And I'm like, are you crazy? I mean, it's like, God, what are you? Is that all you watch is CNN? I just don't understand. And then he and then they said something, and I go, I don't understand. Biden is you got dementia. He fumbles his words. I mean, he's just like this idiot standing up there, and the woman, she just lost it. She goes, I can't believe it. He's got a handicap. He's got a speech impediment. And just like almost lost it. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? You really believe that, don't you?
The thing about Biden, the dementia is that's just a little part of it. He's a serial liar. It's proven. They've got all kinds of videos
From the
of him
first
saying,
time that he ever tried to
they're
do
all
it.
false. And when he was younger and full of vitality, he was a wise guy, anti-American then. So the fact that he's older and he has dementia, it doesn't change. The apple was rotten from inside, regardless of the age on the outside.
Yeah. So yeah, I just that's what I mean. It just they just don't they like they never it's like they don't have any arguments, and when they don't have an argument, all they can do is just attack you. It's the same thing that the woke folks do. It's the same thing that the trans folks do, because I've gotten into that with them too as well. I mean, and I have a trans sibling, so it's like I can talk about that. All right, I like time out. I gotta pass for it.
Right.
It's so I don't know, man. It's crazy the times that we're in. Everything seems subverted. Everything seems inverted. What's right is left. What's up is down. Nothing makes sense. And I believe Alan Dulles was the one, the director of the CIA, that said that his job wouldn't be complete until the American public didn't know what's real from fake. And I believe that's where we're at right now.
Well,
I agree with that.
that's why Sandy wrote this. I mean, it covers a lot of the points. And if the bomb thrower did get back in there, there's got to be a better term than that. But we understand that Trump's personality can be abrasive. We understand that. But we're just almost off the table now. We really need somebody to pull us back that's going to be very, very strong and persevere regardless.
I got to say that the Democrats don't seem to really care about the Constitution. Their main number one priority is fairness, whereas the Republicans are more about law and order. The Constitution comes first, and that's so their argument. How can you argue with somebody like that when you say, well, you can't do this, it's unconstitutional? To them, well, so what? It's got to be done. It's the right thing to do. And there goes the country. If we don't bring back the Constitution, then we're gone.
They like to say it's about fairness. They always like to take the high moral ground, right, Sandy? Like at the border, they were the bleeding hearts. But what is such a bleeding? What's the morality in having a maggot that brings these poor people up there for women and children? They're getting raped. The kids are getting sex trafficking, the fentanyl, the whole thing. What is the warm and fuzzy feeling about that?
Well, that's true. They claim fairness, but everything that they claim is fair is unfair. I mean,
well, I feel like a lot of these systems are run by narcissistic individuals, and so within the system becomes narcissistic in a way in itself, right? And the gaslighting and all the things that go along with it, right? And so it feels like we've been in a real bad relationship for the last, you know what I mean? I don't know, 3 years, right? So we've just been in a super abusive relationship with a narcissistic abuser, and that gaslights constantly. That's the only way I could explain it. That's how it.
Who are you talking about? Who's the
abuser? I said the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
right.
the government, just government in itself, right?
But just right. But see, any Democrat will say exactly that, but they would say the abuser is Trump. Everything they do, they blame on
Yeah.
the Republicans, and they'll say that for example, Trump is a dictator. How is Biden not a dictator? You know, he just does whatever he wants.
Well,
Yeah,
they all say the same thing about the other one. It's like a bunch of finger pointing. You know,
I'm
one
not
will
just saying, but
say,
we get the proof. The Russian collusion. They were the ones that were colluding with the Russians. Everything that they say that Trump did or does, they in fact are and have done. And that's not my opinion.
that's how they get away with it. They
well,
blame.
here's a good
They got the media,
example.
Sean. That's the problem. They
Well,
have the whole.
here's a good example. All right, so have you seen that documentary? Is called Hillary's America.
Yes.
That's enough. That's enough proof for me to know that this is the party of the racists. They've just gone about it in a different way and made the system racist rather than so they can hide behind that, right? Because the original Democrats were all Klansmen mostly.
Right. Well,
The KKK were all Democrats mostly,
I think all.
and all they did was just they took the robes off and hit them, and now they're just hiding in plain sight. And
Well, their big lie.
they're using legislation, they're using prisons, they're using all of that as a new form of slavery.
Their lie is that the Dixiecrats came over to the Republican side. That's just an absolute lie. And so now they say the Republicans are the racist party.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Republican Party is
Anybody that's trying to convince you of something else is probably trying to direct you away from them.
Right.
That's like all this is. It's you just look at the reverse, and that's what the truth is. You know what I mean? And just look at what the opposite of what they're trying to tell you or what they're trying to convince you of, and that's pretty much what the truth is.
Sandy and I love this country because we think it's a good country. It's inherently a great country. Was it perfect? No, but the Constitution made things happen, right? The Constitution, everybody ended up free. Now, as far as I could tell years ago, okay, everything is working and everybody's becoming equal. And I thought that's what desegregation was about. Now the left will tell you they want multiculturalism. Well, you can't have a country with multiculturalism. Merkel and Tony Blair both of them said that it was a, quote, abject failure. We should be Americans. It's a melting pot, not this salad bowl that the School Board of Education is pouring off on the kids now. We need to be a melting pot to all combine our strengths and be one country.
Right.
There's only one party that has that point of view. The other party, I guess, thinks that America is bad and should be somewhat dissembled, which is just unbelievable.
Well, we'll see. We'll definitely see. That's for sure. That's the one thing that you can count on, unless they figure out a way to not. I don't know if we get into a war or we get invaded. Maybe we won't have the elections. They may stoop to something that low. Who knows?
Nothing they wouldn't do. I don't think.
But I don't trust them. I mean, just everything that these folks they are the ebb and flow of everything. The elite, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can control markets. They can crash them. They can do whatever it is that they want if they wanted to. It's not about money for them. I don't think anymore. It's about something else. So
Power.
I don't know. We'll I don't think we'll ever know. And whoever it is that comes in 2024, we'll see. Maybe we'll and we'll revisit this if you guys do anything else, or check back in about 6 months and see kind of where we're at and what the pulse of the nation is at that point in time. That it brings us through the primaries and gets us through into the winter time, into spring. And, I think a lot of folks think that we're in for a harsh 2023 with all of the different situations, food wise, insecurities around the world. Even we've been hearing about it happening here. I don't know. I haven't seen it in the grocery stores yet, but it doesn't mean it's not happening in other places in the world. So
And it was an unforced error. He created it single-handedly with the energy independence that we had that shot oil up to that price. He single-handedly caused this inflation, not just here in America, but in the world.
Agreed.
I mean, that's no doubt
yeah.
about that. He single-handedly did this. He did this himself. And when he
No,
says
no,
he's doing
no,
this,
no.
he's
Putin
all the
did it.
price-
No, 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 no. Putin did it.
Yeah, right.
Putin did it. That was
Yeah.
his. The Putin, whatever the fuck it was.
I mean, and it's so simple, it's
Tax hike,
elementary.
but
know?
whatever nonsense.
Well,
All right, guys.
hopefully you get the word out, and hopefully we get the word out. And,
Yeah,
and
no,
Tim, what do you think? Do you think people should start wearing their Trump hats out? Because it's really sad that you can't talk about this in public because the left goes completely berserk, and we never had this kind of mob running of things before. But it's kind of like that on all kinds of levels. Look what happened to SCOTUS, Supreme Court. The mob is out there. Nobody stops them from intimidating justices.
I don't know. It just goes to show me that they're very weak people. You know what I mean? That if you can be triggered and allowed to have some sort of outside influence determine the outcome of how you are going to be, you know what I mean? Your being, your presence, your peace. I don't know, man. What kind of person are you? You must be pretty weak if somebody can rattle you that good.
Well, they've been told
every time you mention their name.
They've been told that we're evil. Trump and his followers are evil. And that's why you get such vociferous reactions, strangers at restaurants, all this crazy bullying that's going. Here's talking about bullying. There's only one bully in America as far as the political party. That's the Democrats.
You want to hear something funny?
Antifa is just running amok. Nothing happens. Go ahead.
You want to hear something funny? All right. So remember the Freedom Convoy, right? I mean, it was what it said. It's for freedom. If you're for freedom, honk, right? Freedom seems like a really good thing. I don't know. Do you like freedom? I like it. I like to be able to make the choices to go and do this or do that. So they decided to go. There was some sort of politician here that made some dumb decision to institute or try to pass some legislation on the mandate-ish type of things, and so they didn't like that. So they decided they were going to come to her neighborhood and drive their big trucks through her neighborhood in downtown Oakland and honk their horns. Do you know that the residents and people that were like eating breakfast and like patrons, and passerbyers started throwing, like, literally lost their shit and started throwing eggs at the truckers and telling them to get out of there. You know what I mean? And it was just so funny. It's like, Jesus, do you realize that you're saying you're trying to oust freedom right now?
Yeah, I met a woman at the dog park one time. She was talking, about wearing masks. Somebody wasn't wearing a mask in the dog park, which is wide open. And she said, yeah, that guy wants freedom. He wants his freedom.
He must be a Trumper.
Yeah.
It must be a Republican. Only they would do that. It's so crazy. These labels are ridiculous.
These totalitarian.
Whatever happened to the content of your character? That's a pretty telling thing about what kind of a person you are. Not because I like to wear a red hat or I think something else. I mean, the content of people's character really should be the deciding factor on what kind of a person they are.
I think Martin Luther King is rolling over in his grave. If you can see what's going on today.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because he's one of the original ones that said that, wasn't he?
Right.
And you know what JFK said? See what you can do for your country. And of course, now it's just the opposite. It would be great to think that a lot of people think it's too late. And I don't want to think that. Sandy, I know, doesn't want to think that. We've got lots of friends that don't want to think that. But if we're going to prevent that from happening, we're going to have to stop it. We're going to have to prevent it from happening. And we're really going to have to get people motivated to get out there and vote and save this country. It really is that serious.
You want to know something? I asked my friend. He's he was the EOD guy in the Air Force, and he did a tour in Afghanistan, and I asked him, he works for Homeland Security now, and I asked him, like, what do you think's going to happen? You hear any rumblings over where you're at? Any whispers of this or that or anything like that? And he's like, to be honest with you, he said, I think that we're more likely to get into a civil war with each other than we would rising up against the government. He's like, it's just.
Well, the way things are going with the constant vilification, even at the school board meeting I went to the other night, they're vilifying, they're basically telling everybody that the Republicans are evil. And you hear this time and time and again. And it's pretty frightening because, Sandy, what could that ultimately lead to? What has happened in Europe when they did the same tactics?
I have a neighbor. It's just the other day I was talking to. He's from Canada and he's moving back to Canada. And I asked him, why are you moving? He said, because I think the United States is going down.
What happened?
He believes it. It's really.
Like we're our Democratic friends when we are called white supremacists, when we're called domestic terrorists. We're our Democratic friends standing up for us and say, wait a second. We know Sandy. We know Roger. He's not a domestic terrorist. He's a patriot. Where are they? They don't say a word.
Patriot is a bad word now.
Disturbing too.
Patriot is a bad word now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, patriot. Can't be a patriot.
Right. Yeah. Hey, don't say the P word. The P word is going to get you in trouble.
Well, this nonsense. Look, their vocabulary. They can take their vocabulary and put it where the sun doesn't shine. Okay, so that's why we have to stop these wacko radicals from just telling the whole country what to do, and they're really just a squeaky few. They're the squeaky wheel. We got to tell them to shut up.
Shut up, or I'll grab you by the Patriot.
Yeah.
I'm going to grab you by the Patriot, damn it. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I'm hungry and I need to get some stuff done. So I definitely appreciate taking the time. I will hit you up when I release this, probably in a day or two. I'll shoot it out there. I'll send all of the stuff to Adrienne, the links and everything to the episode.
Thanks a lot.
Right. Yeah. No worries, man. I definitely loved having the conversation, and like I said, it's a good example. You don't always have to agree with everything to be able to conversate and talk with people.
Anytime, Sean. And literally, like I say, what Sandy put so much in there, we literally could have done the whole show on just one of those lines. Crime is so bad now, right? We could have done the whole show on that. We could have done the whole show on mandates. Could have done the whole show on the border. We could have done the whole show on losing our energy independence and elections. We could have done a whole show on elections, on California, on Afghanistan. That's awful. What we did to our allies and the interpreters and the family, and I don't even want to think about that. We also dropping on CRT.
$80 billion in arms and defense again, twice.
Peace in the Mideast. We could have had peace in the Mideast, right, Sandy?
Yes.
He was doing it. He was doing it. He pieced together a peace plan. He cobbled it together. Why? Because the common enemy was Iran. Well, guess what, folks? Iran's no longer the common enemy. Oh, now we're allies with them. Oh, okay. That's how that works.
We're allies with Iran now?
Well, he wants to go back to the Iran nuclear deal.
Let him get the bomb.
Well, Iran and Iran and oh man, who else is it? Have you ever heard of a guy by the name of Jeff R. Nyquist?
Not really. No.
He's a poli-sci guy. He's been researching Russia and China and communist parties and socialist parties for like the last 40 years or 35 years, something like that. Look him up. He's got some amazing perspectives on what's happening with Russia and China, Iran, and the alliances that they're building with each other. To I guess link up against us. I don't know.
North Korea.
Yeah. And China's going to go for Taiwan next, and then Japan, and then South Korea, and then us.
Well, all because of this election. And you said something earlier. Let me just bring it up. You said, well, you didn't know how it was going to pan out. For Sandy and I, we knew what was going to happen. And that's why it was like a blow to the sternum and just being shocked for 3 weeks because I really knew all of this stuff. I'm not that smart. I only knew it was going to happen because that's what they said. That's what they said they were going to do.
Fundamentally
Nothing will change.
Fundamentally transform the United States of America.
Sandy, how come not one journalist ever asked Obama what he meant by that? Yeah. Not one time did no Fox reporter, nobody, nothing. Nobody said, Mr. Obama, you've said this so often. What do you mean fundamental transformation of America? Transform from what into what?
Well, because they're not journalists, they're transcribers.
But to this day, no one's asked.
But
all they're doing is taking what they say and putting it on something, and they don't ask hard questions. They give softball questions, and that's just the way that it works. I haven't seen anybody. Well, that's not true. I think I saw one guy drilling into something recently, but I mean that's few and far between. It's usually just a bunch of BS questions. Oh. They wouldn't probably let him in there if they were going to ask him anything serious.
Right.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it, and like I said, good luck on the views, and I will share it out as much as I can to my audience.
Great. Thank you.
Really appreciate it, Sean.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.